I had pictured that night differently. Candles flickering, soft music in the background, maybe laughter weaving through the air as we reflected on our years together. But our anniversary dinner felt nothing like that. It was like walking across shards of glass. Emma sat across from me, her phone face down, tension etched across her features. Over the past few months, I'd noticed a growing distance, little silences, cold shoulders, late nights she never fully explained. Still, I clung to the hope that tonight could remind us of what we once were. When the waiter poured the wine, I raised my glass. "To us," I said softly. She barely lifted hers. "Sure," she muttered. I tried to keep the moment alive, but the emptiness in her eyes told me she wasn't present. She was somewhere else, mentally gone already. Then, without warning, she let out a sharp exhale and set her fork down. "I can't do this," she said, her voice trembling with suppressed frustration. The room seemed to pause. "Can't do what?" I asked, stunned. "Pretend," she said, her face flushed. "Pretend we're fine when we're not. Pretend that this dinner fixes everything." I stayed quiet at first. My instinct was to soothe her, but I realized she didn't want calm. She needed an outlet, a way to release what she had been holding in. "Emma," I said carefully, "I didn't expect tonight to fix everything. I just wanted to celebrate us. Maybe remember how it felt before things got so heavy." Her laughter cut through me, but it wasn't light or kind. "Before things got heavy? You mean before you started treating me like a project? Before you stopped listening?" The words stung, not because they were true, but because they were carefully prepared. I could tell she had been rehearsing this. Nearby diners began to glance over, sensing the tension. I took a slow breath and leaned forward slightly. "If you're angry, say what you need to say," I told her, "but don't turn tonight into a performance." Her eyes widened as if I had stripped away her cover, and then she exploded. "You don't get it, do you?" "You never do," she snapped, voice rising. "I'm tired of pretending we're happy when everything feels like an act." Her words echoed in the restaurant, and I felt the air shift. But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just looked at her, steady, silent, calm. For a moment, no one moved. Even the waiter, approaching with dessert, quietly turned away, pretending not to notice the thick tension. Emma's chest rose and fell as she struggled to catch her breath, her fury spilling over. Her eyes glistened, not with sadness, but with anger. I held my gaze. "I hear you," I said quietly. "You're angry. Maybe you have every right to be, but yelling doesn't make you right. It just makes it harder to see what's real." My calm tone seemed only to inflame her further. "You always do this," she snapped, pointing at me, hiding behind calm words and quiet faces. "You make me feel like the crazy one." I could have matched her, fired back every accusation, reminded her of nights spent away with friends I'd never met. But I didn't. Something told me this wasn't just anger. It was guilt wrapped in defense. So I let her continue. She ranted about my distance, my predictability, the spark that had supposedly died. Each word was a knife honed by frustration. I listened without interruption, not because I didn't care, but because I wanted her to hear herself, to see how far her words had drifted from truth. When she finally stopped, the silence was heavy. I leaned back slightly, my hand still on the table, and spoke in a voice just above a whisper. "Are you finished?" She frowned, thrown off. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, meeting her eyes, "that you spent months looking for someone or something to blame. I've watched you drift away, hoping you'd find your way back. But tonight, I finally understand. You don't want to find your way back. You just want an exit that paints you as the victim." Her lips parted, expression frozen. For the first time all evening, she had no response. I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "I know about the late nights, Emma. I know who's been calling you. I didn't speak before because I hoped you'd tell me yourself. But instead of honesty, you brought anger to mask the guilt." The color drained from her face. You don't understand," she began, voice cracking mid-sentence. I nodded slowly. "No, I understand perfectly." The restaurant felt smaller, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Emma's eyes darted around, unsure how to respond. Her hands trembled as they gripped her wine glass. The familiar comfort of the space was gone. I remained calm, steady, letting the truth settle without raising my voice or adding a single accusation beyond what I'd already said. Finally, she whispered, almost to herself, "I didn't think you'd know." "I know more than you think," I replied softly. "I've always noticed when something fell off. I just gave you the chance to tell me the truth. Tonight, I realize the truth isn't coming unless I make it real for both of us." The words hung in the air. Emma's anger, once consuming, faltered. She froze, processing the calm certainty in my voice. It wasn't humiliation I sought. It was clarity. I wanted her to see the consequences of hiding behind excuses, of letting bitterness fester instead of addressing the real issues. For several long moments, neither of us spoke. Then she looked down at her hands, tension slowly leaving her shoulders. I didn't want to ruin tonight," she said quietly, stripped of pretense. "I just didn't know how to handle everything." I reached across the table and gently touched her hand. "Then handle it now," I said, not with anger or explosions, but with honesty. "That's the only way we fix what matters. Us, this marriage. It all depends on truth, not performances." Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they weren't from fury. They were from recognition, understanding. She had expected confrontation, drama, chaos, but I offered calm, unwavering clarity instead, something she hadn't anticipated. The rest of the evening unfolded quietly. We spoke slowly and carefully about the past months, her fears and frustrations, my observations and feelings. There were still hard truths and uncomfortable admissions, but for the first time in a long while, it felt real. Not a performance, not a battle for dominance or validation. Just us, confronting reality together. By the time we left the restaurant, the weight in the air had lifted slightly. Emma's hand found mine, holding it gently. "Thank you," she whispered, "for staying calm, for not yelling back." I smiled faintly. "Sometimes," I said, "the most powerful response isn't anger. It's presence, patience, and honesty." That night, I realized something crucial. Strength isn't loud, and clarity doesn't require theatrics. In the aftermath of her explosion, the calm truth I offered had done more than silence the chaos. It had reshaped how we saw each other, and maybe, just maybe, saved what mattered.